Hello, welcome to Alchemy YouTube channel. It is a sixth part of a series called Tamed a Black Enslaved Man. Let's begin. Damien opened the door and said, "Hurry up and come in here." And then suddenly Cassidy's face came into her mind. She came back to her senses and thinking that, I miss him so much right now. I miss his smile, his warm arms. I should not have let him leave like that. I did not know until we got to this point. But if I am capable of loving someone again, it would only be with just him. So where the hell are you, Cassidy? There is only a day left before National Foundation Festival. On the other side, Cassidy was living in an old hut, and Damien's butler was also present there. He was totally tied up. Cassidy was looking at the butler and thinking that, this is not just about revenge anymore. This is for Orion and me. He looked at the sword which was given by Orion and thinking that, I miss you. I am going crazy because I miss you, sister. And then he started to kiss the sword. In the mansion, Damien was lighting up the candles by a matchstick, and Orion was looking around herself. Suddenly, she said, this book is also here, the boundaries between right and wrong. After hearing this, Damien looked at her. However, she was looking at the book, and said it's a book of philosophy from Ilya. I also enjoy reading a lot. This is my favorite book. Damien sat down on the sofa and said, that's interesting. My favorite activity is reading books. Orion was smiling and thinking that, I remember all your likes and dislikes. I've worked really hard so you would love me. Damien closed his eyes and said, there is a quote in this book that is, nothing can be completely distinguished between good and bad, and what some may call evil might be deemed good for others. Orion came towards the chair and said, that's from chapter 3 and 4, it's a good quote, and it makes me think of a lot of things. Damien was totally surprised after hearing the chapter's number, and she remembered it correctly. Orion asked, what's the matter, Archduke? He said, it's just a little unexpected. She sat down in the chair and said, I will take that as a compliment. So, could you remove your jacket first? It's necessary to be able to treat you. He started to remove his clothes and Orion said, I understand that this question may sound rude, but you don't seem to have many servants around to assist you. Like to turn on the lights or to change your clothes. It bothers me to think that you have to do all of this by yourself. Damien said you get used to it when you do it often, and it's been quite a long time. Orion said, I see. She was thinking that Kindle is always at Damien's side. It's a little strange. But right now he is not here. After unbuttoning his shirt, he lay down on the sofa, and Orion started to check him. While checking, she said, there is a reason why even the most famous doctors have not been able to cure this. And your illness is already very advanced. I don't think it's possible to deal with it all at once. Damien said, it's okay, but I want you to show me your healing skills now if possible. And then she started to heal him, but in a limited range so that he can't become healthy completely. When she was using her power, a bright light was coming out. She was thinking that I will leave the deceased inside your body as it is. I will just relieve your pain temporarily. If he feels any more pain, I will have to go in and out of the archduchy. And then she removed her hand after completing the spell. Damien was totally shocked. He said, this, it's not possible. I can't believe it. The pain is completely gone. You spoke the truth that you have healing powers. She smiled while looking at him and said, why would I lie after coming all this way to see you? With a sweaty face, Damien said, I can't believe it. He moved his hand forward. Orion asked, so things between us have been resolved, right? He said, that's right. Why don't we shake hands to celebrate our reconciliation? Both of them shake hands and Damien said, I apologize for the misunderstanding. I have been very rude to you. She replied, it's fine. With a smiley face he asked, what is your favorite quote from the Boundary Between Good and Bad book? She looked away from him and said, "My favorite quote is, 'The evil ones don't know they are evil, as the good ones don't know they are good either. But when the time comes, both shall weigh their sins, and pay for what they have done.'" It's chapter 9, verse 11. He said yes, it is one of my favorite passages as well. He tightened his hand grip and said, "We seem to have a lot in common, so why not you stay here and we could talk all night?" Even when he was this close, she has not feeling anything for him. She stood up and said, "I'm afraid it is already too late, and if I were to stay and talk to you, rumors may spread about us, just for spending the night at your house." Damien said, "I had not thought about it that way, and it's late so I could escort you to another mansion inside the estate." She said, "My father might be worried, so I will accept your excellency's kindness. As I mentioned earlier, your illness will not be cured with one treatment. The pain will continue to appear until you finish treating it." With a smile, Damien said, "We can come up with a plan when the pain comes." She laughed and said, "Of course, that's what good friends do." But then suddenly she stopped and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, how could I dare to say something so casual to His Excellency? I should not have said that." Damien asked, "What do you mean?" And then he started to touch her hand and said, "No, let's become better acquainted." He kissed on her hand and said it would be nice if we started out as friends. Toll was standing outside, and then when both of them came out, he said, "Lady Orion?" She asked, "You haven't been waiting for too long, have you?" But then Damien made a coughing sound. Orion looked at him and said, "Toll, could you go and get everything ready to go?" "I will be there shortly," he replied. "As you wish, Lady Orion." After a while, Damien and Orion were going there. He said, "I'm planning to attend the National Founding Festival. The county is close to the capital. Are you also going?" Orion replied, "I have not discussed it with my father yet." He said, "I hope you do. That day I will show you something interesting in return, my lady. That's why I should really like you to be there." She asked, "Something interesting? What could it be?" He said, "If I tell you ahead of time, it would not be as much fun. It's better to enjoy the entertainment on that day." Orion said, "That's what makes me more curious." He said, "You know, most people are unable to make eye contact with me, but you are not afraid at all." While making an eye contact, she asked, "Is that so?" Damien said, "I'm often misunderstood because my gaze is cold. Many people think I'm a scary person for that reason." She said, "The first time I saw it, I thought it was beautiful." He said, "I'm glad you said that." She is about to open the door, and then he touched her hand and came behind her. He asked, "Do you know what the boundaries between good and bad means?" She looked towards him and said, "You must not give up your heart easily, and don't doubt the person who delivers his heart with difficulty." He said, "I will no longer doubt you after curing my heart disease. So Orion, I hope you can trust me too." She looked at him and thinking that, "Trust you," she said, "Of course." But she was thinking that he's telling me in his own words to enter this hell on my own. With a smile she said, "I trust you." Damien said, "Then I will see you at the festival, my lady." And then all of them left the palace. Damien was looking outside from the window of his palace and thinking that, the power of God, I thought that girl had gone crazy, but actually she is a golden goose. Damien was touching his chest and thinking that, even when I drank blood it did not stop the pain, and my chest, which always feels tight and heavy, is now in total peace, as if the disease has disappeared. In an anger he was thinking that, I can't believe the imperial family has had a monopoly on this. But then with a tricky smile he was thinking, now that ability is mine, and no one can stop me. After a while Orion returned to the imperial palace. With a smile the prince greeted her and said, "Welcome back." He asked, "Did you finish your conversation with Duke Damien?" "It went well," she said. "Thanks for your help, I was able to finish it safely." He said it would be nice if even the Count had an escort tomorrow, because I would not come. She said it is a short walk from the Imperial Palace to the mansion, and you might be worried, so I wanted to tell you as soon as possible. The prince said yes, I was worried. I wish could at least offer you a cup of tea. But if I do so, it will be very late. She said thank you for the offer, Your Highness, but I should not bother you more than this. He asked what's the bother? And then she didn't said anything. He asked what's the matter? In a soft voice she asked, Your Highness, why are you so nice to me? Firstly he paused for a moment, but then suddenly he started to laugh. He came close to her and said, well, I don't know either. With a sweaty face and confused state, she was looking at him. He was touching her hair, but then suddenly, he shook her head. She became angry after this. She shouted, Your Highness. With a smile the prince turned away and said, see you later, Orion. With the messy hair she was looking at him, and then she said, the prince is really a strange person. On the next day, she arrived at the mansion, and she was talking to her father. Her father asked, so did His Highness the Crown Prince give you much help? She replied, yes, father. The Count said His Highness is a big problem. Orion asked, what? Her father said, from what I remember, he was the person who had no interest in other people's affairs. He was thinking that it's been this way since Her Majesty passed away. He said, anyway, I'm grateful he helped you. Orion replied, I see. She was thinking that the prince doesn't seem like a person who has no interest in those around him. Even in my past life he and I did not have much contact. If it were not for Cassidon, we would never have had a face-to-face conversation, and there must be something I don't know. While eating the food she asked, is there any news about Cassidon while I was away? Her father replied, I couldn't find a single clue. But it has not been that long since he left. He will come back eventually. After hearing this she asked, Father, can I leave first today? Her father replied, of course, is something the matter? She replied, I have to go out again today. He asked, where else do you need to go in the morning? With a smile she said, I'm going to go catch the guy who escaped, without being brave enough to talk to me. After a while in her room, she took out several newspaper and notices, and thinking that, I need to make a move for myself. In the letter Cassidon said that he would return when everything is settled. And what we can conclude is that it was revealed he was a gladiator slave, or about the fall of the Kingdom of Highland. And the exact purpose of Cassidon is unknown, but it's clear that Damien is involved in both of the cases. She was looking at the paper and notices very carefully and thinking that Damien was convinced that Cassidon was a slave. So, there is no way to harm the reputation of a noble family without solid evidence. And I am sure they did a background check, so what would I do if I were Cassidon? While looking at the newspaper she was thinking that, first we will start by finding out, where and how much Damien found out. And the true proof that Cassidon was a gladiator slave, is the bill of sale. And I have the one copy of it. The one who was the other is the person who sold him to me. And then she went to meet the person who organizes gladiator fighting? In a soft voice the man said, Are not you Lady Serica? If I had known you were coming, I would have made tea in advance. She was looking at him very seriously and asked, Is there anything else you want to tell me? In a bit fear he said, Sorry. I told Cassidon everything I know, so why are you asking me about this again? She was confused after hearing this and thinking that Cassidon was also here. The men asked, Did not you hear everything from Cassidon? She was thinking that I still don't know if Cassidon was excommunicated, so I will have to leave the conversation like this. She asked, Is that really all there to tell? How can I trust you? The man asked, What would I have to hide from the lady? He told her that, from the voice of the person who came to bought that bill, I could say that he was an older man covered in a cloak. He took the certificate and left immediately. Orion were looking at him very sharply and thinking that, if it was an old man then it would be Kindle. He does all of Damien's dirty work. In a pleasing posture the man said, was not Cassidy famous because he was very popular? I really had no idea that giving him a certificate would be such a hassle for the lady. I was also surprised when I read the newspaper. Orion was thinking that, such a liar, he even sold the certificate. He is a person who only cares about money and moves without thinking. He probably had no interest or feeling of guilt about what Cassidy's life would be like after leaving this infernal graduate gladiator arena. And the only thing these people can understand is money. Suddenly she stood up and slammed her hand on the table. She said, most likely you are already aware that I did pay $5 billion for him. The men said, of course I'm so sorry. She said, compared to what Cassidy means to me, it's nothing. And just because you have enslaved Cassidy in front of so many spectators, it doesn't mean you can do it again in the future. Cassidy is mine, and if something comes out about Cassidy again in the future, know that it will not be a problem to have this gladiator arena shut down. And then she left from the arena. With a sweaty face, the man was standing outside. He said, although they are not real siblings, but they do the same things. Because earlier when Cassidy came, the man was totally shocked after seeing him. Cassidy looked down on him and said, I'm not here to chat, so I will just get to the point. It would be better for you to just answer my question. He was holding the short sword and asked, has anyone recently confirmed that I was a gladiator slave? The man told him about selling the certificate. Cassidy said, you sold the certificate to an old man wearing a robe, and he came to visit a week ago. In a fear the man said, I really did not know it would be a problem. While looking at Cassidy's gaze the man said, the person who came for that certificate is definitely a member of the Serica family. And then suddenly Cassidy grabbed his neck. He said, my business is over, and if Count Serica's family is harmed once again. In a villainous smile he said, I will cut off your hands that touches the money you like so much. So I suggest that you behave yourself, so you don't get into trouble again. At the current time he was remembering that smile. He was feeling fear and creepiness. And then while entering into the arena he was thinking that, I don't know who he is, but he is a damn old man. I got involved for no reason, just to get some extra money. Orion reached back to the mansion. The servant said, Miss, we are here. She came out from the chariot and thinking that, I don't know where Cassidy is now, but he must be in contact with Damien. And then she thanked the person who helped her. She was thinking that first of all I should go to the National Foundation Festival. The more I get in contact with Damien, the easier it will be to find clues about Cassidy. She noticed that Sasha was standing outside. She said, Sasha, why a chariot is here? Do we have guests? Sasha said you should go inside and see it for yourself. When she entered she found that there are several necklaces and dresses were present in front of her. A person who came with it said, Lady Serica, these are gifts from Archduke Damien. Both Orion and Sasha were surprised after seeing this. And then the flood of gifts from Damien continued for days. After some days the men who came with those gems and dresses said, these are gems and other valuable materials sent as gifts by Archduke Damien, and this is a dress sent by the Archduke. Orion's father said, oh my God, this has been going on for days. He asked Orion, when did you become so close to the Archduke? The person who came with the gifts said, if there is anything else you want, let me know. Orion said, please tell him, he doesn't need to give these to me. The person said, Lord Damien said he was giving it to you as a sign of friendship, so please accept. And when you arrive tomorrow at the National Foundation Festival, he will also escort you from the Capitol Square. Orion's father said, I see, please tell him that we will see him tomorrow. The man said, then we will take our leave. When both of them left, Orion's father looked at her and asked, Orion, do you have feelings for the Archduke? She replied, it's not like that. Her father said, so it seems that the Archduke has feelings for you. While looking downward, she was thinking that he seems simply changes his attitude because I have the ability to heal. His nature of seducing and using people as his tool, who open their hearts to him, is still there. But he don't know that now it is his turn to fall into that beautiful trap. At the night, Orion was laying on her bed and she was thinking that I can't sleep. It's been 10 days since I have seen Cassidy. She was looking at the moon and thinking that there was a full moon when Cassidy first came to my room. She stood up and opened the window, and thinking that as time passes, Cassidy became clearer in my memories, and you resemble me in many ways. While looking at the moon, she said, there are so many things I want to tell you and ask you about, even if we are not family, so please come back to me, Cassidy. And then she closed her eyes and about to turn back, but then suddenly someone said, sister. She opened her eyes and rushed outside of the mansion. She came out from the front door and someone said, sister. After hearing this, she looked at him. It was Cassidy. She said, Cassidy? And then suddenly Cassidy rushed towards her and grabbed her in his arms. With a crying and blushy face, she asked, is it really you, Cassidy? He replied, yes. She was pounding on his chest and said, why did you run away from the family without saying anything to me? Do you know how much pain I was in because of you? Where on earth did you go, and what were you doing? With a shivering body, she said, do you know how much I worried about you? He grabbed her hand and said, I miss you, sister. He came very close to her and said, I care about you so much that I can't help it. I love you. And then he asked, do you hate me because of this? With terror in her eyes, Orion was thinking that, his blind gaze that seems to capture me, would it be strange if I say I am not afraid anymore? I thought I could never love anyone again, but your gentle touch, your bright smile, like a painting that was only shown to me, it has become truly precious. I didn't realize it until you left. I'm just glad that you are back. And then both of them entered into Orion's room. She said, I don't think so. It's okay if others call me crazy, but you don't have to call me sister anymore. He was surprised after hearing this. She was thinking that fitting us into the roles of brother and sister, am I taking back the sin of trying to tame you? Cassidy came close to her and asked, can I take this as meaning that you have given me permission? She was looking at him with a blushy face and thinking that, if it is a sin, I'm willing to be a sinner. She grabbed him and then both of them started to kiss each other, and they were kissing so intensely. And then while looking at his hand, which was covered in bruises, she said, Cassidy, there is something I have been meaning to confess to you when you return. In front of him, she casted her healing magic. After completely healing him, she asked, are you not surprised after seeing this? Cassidy said, I already knew. I secretly reapplied the ointment you showed me the day we first met, and it had no effect. I was convinced when you removed the scars from my body. Orion was looking downwards and said, I see. Both of them were sitting on the bed and Orion said, this ability is the reason why our family receives the protection of the imperial family. However, if this were found out by a greedy person, it could become a weakness that destroys the family. Do you remember when Archduke Damien collapsed at the banquet, clutching his heart? She said, Damien is suffering from an incurable disease. He is a person who will do anything without hesitation for treatment. Cassidy was looking at her while listening all of this. She said, this empire has no hesitation in aggressively expanding its rule. It would not be surprising that if there is a war at some point. And Damien would threaten to use this knowledge to his advantage if my father doesn't come back from the war. What if I, a defenseless person, fall into Damien's hand? That's why I brought you here. He asked, how do you know Duke Damien's true intentions? While looking at his face, she replied, just as he is your enemy, he's mine as well. Damien is trying to tremble and kill me and my father, but it's so hard for me to explain just how I know right now. she grabbed his hand and said, "As there are still some parts that even I don't fully understand, even if you don't believe me, I have nothing to say." While grabbing her hand back, he came close to her and said, "It's okay." She asked, "Don't you hate me?" He replied, "How could I possibly hate you? I also used you for my revenge. When I came to the palace for the first time, I heard everything when you were talking to your father. At that time you said if war breaks out further, and because father you are the only man in this family, you will have to go. But that can be avoided if we bring someone else into the family." At that time I was listening all of this from outside. Because I thought it was foolish to care about other people. I thought it was worth the gain and loss, so I decided to stick with it. But the words you said and the way you touched me, I didn't know how to save and comfort you in return, if it was not for you. At the current time, Cassidy said, I would have been totally consumed by a misdirected desire for revenge. He asked, "So isn't it a better path for my anger to be the same as yours?" He touched her cheek. And then she closed her eyes and said, "I am yours." Cassidy said, "I also have something to tell you. I discovered a shocking fact about internal energy." Orion asked, "What?" He stood up and while walking he said, "It was just as you said, it's human blood in the Duke's medicine to reduce the pain of a heart attack. They were recruiting unattached people without families as servants, and killing them." After hearing this, Orion was shocked. She asked, "They did something like that?" Then the voice told remembered hearing, "We need more blood," was from them. With a sweaty face she asked, "How did you find out about it?" He looked at her, and said, "I use a butler named Kindle to contact the Archduke." Orion said, "Thank you, Cassidy, this will be a big help. Now that Damien believes he can be cured with my abilities, the murders will stop, and he must pay for his terrible actions." Cassidy closed his eyes and said, "The truth is, originally I was planning to come to you later because I had other things to do, but I could not sit back and watch as that damn pile of gifts kept growing." She asked, "You plan to come back later?" He said, "I'm sorry, it's because I don't want to be your little brother anymore." She said, "Orion, please call me Orion from now on." After hearing this he became very happy and with a bright smile he said, "Orion." He was holding her hand and repeating her name again and again. He said, "There is still one more thing left to do, so please trust me and wait. I will come back proudly and tell you everything." She was touching her face and said, "Please come back to me safely." He replied, "Yes, I promised I will come back to you." And then both of them started to kiss each other. And then just like that the morning of the National Foundation Day arrived. The civilians and nobles were going to the stores and shop. There was too much people gathered together due to internment. Someone was saying, "Buy a bouquet of flowers. They will make beautiful garlands." Someone said, "Miss Serica?" It was a man sent by Damien. He said, "Pardon me, are you enjoying the festival?" Count Serica and Miss Serica. She was holding her father's hand and looking towards him. The man said, "Archduke Damien asked me to guide you to your seats." Orion asked, "Where?" With a smile the man replied, "The Archduke has prepared an excellent place for you to view the competition in advance, so please follow me to the tournament arena." After a while, both of them arrived to the tournament arena, and the Emperor was also sitting there. He noticed both of them and said, "Count Serica?" The Count also said, "Your Majesty?" Both Orion and her father greeted the Emperor and said, "Greetings to the son of the Empire." The Emperor asked, "What's wrong, Count?" "This is a seat reserved exclusively for the royal family." After hearing this both of them were shocked. They said, "What? We were guided here by someone from Archduke Damien. There must have been some mistake, then we will take our leave." The Emperor said, "Forget it, you are not an outsider. Besides, if you stay then I would not be bored since there will be someone I know by my side." And coincidentally, I want to talk to your daughter about something? So have a seat. Both of them were a bit confused, and then both of them sit down on the chairs. The Emperor said, I can't believe the Archduke has actually given up his seat of honor. While he was saying this, Orion was sitting beside him. The Emperor said, I heard that the Archduke has given you many gifts recently. So when did you become so close to him? Could it be that you have feelings for the Archduke? Orion was thinking that. So that's the reason why you decided to send me to the same place where the Emperor is. If I deny it, will the Emperor believe it? And then she closed her eyes. An image of Cassidy came into her mind. She was remembering the time when Cassidy said, I like you, Orion. With a smile, she was thinking that yes, he was the one who first gathered courage to say that. So now it's my turn. With a smile, she said, you misunderstood, Your Majesty. I already have someone I like. After hearing this, her father was shocked. In a loud voice he said, What, Orion? What did you just say? Who is it? He looked towards the Emperor and said, Your Majesty, please forgive my rudeness. With a smile, the Emperor said, It's okay. All parents with children feel the same way. The Emperor said, As far as I know, you seem to have met with Leon frequently as well. I don't think that's the case, but if you really have feelings for him. Before he can complete his sentence, Orion said, Your Majesty, I understand very well what you are trying to say. The Emperor laughed and said straight to the point, The Count has indeed raised a clever daughter. Orion was thinking that I'm sorry, but I don't want to be given the honor of becoming the crown princess. The Emperor leaned forward and asked, Is this the first time you have come to see this competition? The Count said, Yes, Your Majesty. The Emperor started to explain him that it is an interesting competition in which all types of weapons are allowed. It's so popular, and death is not a shame or a crime, but a part of the challenge of honor. Beyond identity and fear of death, those who hold victory in their hands, that person can get whatever you want, even if it's the title or even money that can last a lifetime. And then commentators started the tournament. He said, Now for the event everyone has been waiting for, Son of the Empire. Welcome to the 34th fighting competition under the auspices of His Majesty's Empire. The Emperor stood up and raised his hand. With a smile he announced, The winner of this tournament will receive an honor worthy of their bravery and determination. May God bless the competitors. After hearing this, all of the audience were cheering. The commentator said, 50 powerful challengers have made it through these preliminary rounds to compete in the finals. The competition is conducted on an elimination basis, and the use of personal weapon is allowed. He said, For our first challenger, there isn't anyone in our empire who doesn't know this person. He is the master swordsman Archduke, Damien Keen Dyers. With a smile, Damien entered into the arena. He said, It is not very pleasant to be the first. All of them were shocked after seeing this. They were confused. The Emperor said, How could the Archduke? Did you know that the Archduke was going to compete? Orion looked towards him and said, Your Majesty, we had absolutely no idea either. The Emperor said, Then why would the Archduke, who already has so much, want to participate in this competition? On the fighting ground, both Damien and his competitor were standing facing against each other. The Emperor looked at him very sharply and said, He is even trying to win this competition, which was organized so that commoners could raise their status. The commentator said, Fight. The competitor took out his sword, and on the other hand, Damien was just holding his sword. The competitor attacked him. Damien was thinking that there are so many weak areas. His form is terrible. He took out his sword and blocked his attack. And in a sudden movement he attacked him. The opponent's sword flew away from him, and Damien was holding his sword on his neck. The competitor said, I surrender. After seeing this with a sweaty face, the commentator shouted, "How can this be?" He announced the opponent have surrendered right at the beginning of the match. The people were cheering for Damien. The commentator said, "Victory as expected from our Archduke." Damien was looking at Orion and thinking that, "It's tiresome, what a dull competition, but thanks to that woman the place looks brighter than ever." He was wondering that what should I ask the Emperor to present as the winning prize. The commentator said we will get to the next match right away, and then the next competitor enter into the arena. The commentator said one of the challengers in this match is participated without revealing his identity, an anonymous challenger wearing a black robe. Orion was a bit confused after seeing that man in a robe. That person removed his robe and Orion immediately understood that he is Cassidon. She was about to say his name but then stopped herself. The Emperor asked, "Do you know him?" She said, "No, I think I was mistaken." She was looking at him and thinking that, "Cassidon, why are you here?" He was looking at her, and then Orion was remembering the old memory, when she was talking to the Duke. At that time the Duke said, "On the day of the founding ceremony, I will show you something very interesting. And it would not be as much fun if I tell you in advance, so you can just look forward to the festival." At the current time she was thinking that, is this what Damien was talking about? She tightened her fist and thinking that no, there is no need for me to feel uneasy. You must be very confident to do this. I believe in your promise, Cassidon, so come back to me safely. Because everything is different now. She stood up from her seat, and looking at the match. The audience was shouting very loudly. The people outside of the arena, they also noticed it. One of the shopkeepers said, "Today seems noisier than usual in the tournament area." One of the persons said, "I heard that a very powerful contender has appeared. His match lasted no longer than 5 minutes. The shopkeeper asked, "Are you talking about Archduke Damien, who participated this time?" The person said, "No, I'm not talking about Duke Damien, there is another competitor. A swordsman who made it to the finals with just an old sword." In the tournament the Emperor was looking at him very seriously. He said, "This is my first time seeing a contestant compete with only an old sword like that. His movements are also noticeably different from others." He smiled and said, "I never knew there was such a talented person in the Empire. It's a pity that he's in the same competition as the Archduke. I hope this outstanding talent will not lose his life." The Archduke and Cassidon were facing each other. The commentator shouted, "Now the long-awaited final match. This is the moment you have all been waiting for." The audience were shouting very loudly. They were cheering for both of them. The commentator said, "Duke Damien and anonymous challenger, the final match begin." Damien was smiling while looking at him. On the other hand, Cassidon was looking at him very seriously. And then Damien unsheathed his sword, and said, "You clearly asked not to be identified, so I will grant you that wish." Cassidon said, "I am honored." And then Damien attacked him, and Cassidon dodged it. Orion was looking at the match with a sweaty face. She was worried about Cassidon. With a smile Damien said, "Hey gladiator slave, why did not you block that? Do you intend to disappoint me already?" Cassidon didn't say anything. Damien said, "Your sister has really caught my interest," and then he came close to him and said, "No, you were kicked out of the family?" He was about to say something about Orion. However, Cassidon interrupted him and said, "If you speak her name one more time out of that mouth, I will kill you right here." Damien asked, "Do you think so highly of your own skills that you would say something that foolish to an opponent you can't beat? Or is it because of Orion?" With a sharp look Cassidon looked at him and moved back a bit. Damien was surprised after seeing such fast speed. Both of them were clashing their sword very fiercely. However, Damien lost his balance and thinking that, this bastard, his speed is crazy. Cassidan asked, why did not you block that? You don't intend to disappoint me already, do you? Damien became angry after hearing this. However, he lost the control on battle due to Cassidan's fast speed, and then with the same pace, Cassidan landed a strike on Damien's face. The Emperor was looking at it very seriously. There was a blood on Cassidan's sword, and then Damien was touching his face, there was blood on it. Damien was thinking that it was difficult to notice with my eyes, but he definitely could have cut my head off, but he did not intentionally. Damien was remembering their old communication in which Cassidan said, I have no intention of becoming your enemy, so would listen to my small request. In an angry mood, Damien said, you knew from the beginning that you could beat me. You did this on purpose. However, Cassidan was looking at him with a serious and silent look. Damien was looking at him and thinking that, how dare he have that expression on his face while facing me? Cassidan closed his eyes and with a smile he said, I think I understand your Excellency's feeling as to why you chose to participate in this competition. And it's boring to watch. And then with a smile he said, so why not lower your damn pride? In an anger Damien shouted, how? How dare this slave? And then suddenly Damien felt an unbearable pain in his chest. He dropped his sword and sat on the ground. He was touching his chest and feeling the tremendous amount of pain. The audience were cheering for Cassidan and the commentator said, oh no, Archduke Damien has fallen. While touching his chest, Damien said, damn it. He remembered the moment when Orion told him about his illness, that his illness is not completely cured with just one treatment. The pain continued to return until treatment is completed. He looked at her and thinking that, if I get the treatment from that woman again. And Orion was looking at him and Damien was thinking that, was this woman always looked like this? At the current time she looked very pretty to him. Cassidan came close and threatened him, that the moment you harm that person, you will beg me to spare your life. So do not dare to covet or even lay your filthy eyes on her, it will be beneficial to your reputation. And then Damien fell on the ground. Everyone was shocked after seeing this. With a sweaty face the commentator said, since the Archduke is incapable of fighting, winner of the 34th annual tournament is the anonymous challenger. He sheathed his sword and the audience were cheering for him. The Emperor stood up and said, sent royal medics for the Archduke. Orion was thinking that thank God nothing bad happened. The medics and the helper entered into the ground and took Damien. After a while the Emperor came into the field with his royal knights and said, it was definitely one of the best combat matches I have ever seen. What is your name? Cassidan said, my name is Cassidan, your majesty. The Emperor was thinking that Cassidan, and said, from what I remember, that was the name of the gladiator who was adopted into Count Sarika's family. Stand and raise your head. Cassidan stood up and said, Count Sarika took me in even though I was a gladiator slave, but I left the family so that I would no longer cause them any trouble. And now I'm just a slave. With a smile the Emperor said, as expected, you were the main character of many rumors, so I still wanted to meet you. He said you could have just settled for the luck that befell you, yet you have a great mindset. The Emperor asked, so did you compete to get a title? Tell me what you wish for. Cassidan said, for me, I choose to leave it up to your majesty to decide what the best title for me should be. After hearing this the royal guards became angry. They were about to came forward and said, how bold of you! How dare you! But the Emperor stopped them. With a smile the Emperor said, that is the most daring wish I have heard from any winner. Firstly, I don't think you are being blinded by greed considering that you decided to leave the Count's family. Cassidan said, with respect to your majesty, there is actually another wish that I would like you to fulfill. The Emperor asked, what would that be? Cassidon looked at Orion and said, I'm no longer a part of Count Sarika's family. But the grace that I received during my time with them meant a lot to me. They helped me so much and have changed my life. On the other side, Orion and her father were looking at him. She was thinking that I can't hear what he's saying. Cassidon said, this is why I want to return the favor to the Count, the best way I know how. He looked at the Emperor and said, I want to participate on behalf of Count Sarika in his stead. After hearing this, the Emperor was surprised. He was thinking that what is he talking about? He doesn't want the Count to go to war. If that is his reason, then he should have remained part of the Count's family. It is true that he achieved so much thanks to the Count, but if a gladiator is sent to war on behalf of the Sarika family, certainly the Count's reputation would be diminished. The Count is the only one whose family has healing powers in the entire empire, so I don't want to send him to war either, but I had no reason to give him any kind of preferential treatment. This is an unexpected opportunity. The Count was looking at them with a sweaty face. He was confused and thinking that what are they talking about? The Emperor said, good, but it is impossible for me to fulfill considering your current status. You realize that you are asking for a lot of privileges. If I were to fulfill your wishes, what would I get in return? Cassidon sat down on his knees and said, Your Majesty, I can provide you with much more than you desire. With a serious look, the Emperor asked, and if you can't keep your word, what price would you be willing to pay for deceiving your Emperor? Cassidon said, I will give you my life. The Emperor was thinking that he defeated Damien, the best swordsman in the entire empire. He could return the favor with blind loyalty. He really is incredible. And I don't know if this slave is aware of the pace of the situation, to mention a war. Elza, a small country which lies to the northwest, is making moves to expand its power. And Damien's power has grown too much, and his contributions as a knight represent a large part of it. If a war against Elza starts, Damien will be needed on the front and his public image will become much stronger. But I could keep a closer eye on him while he is away. If I were to convert this man into my most loyal dog, then it would be good. After analyzing everything, in a loud voice the Emperor said, It would be fine if you become a marquis. After hearing this, the royal knights were shocked, and everyone present there was also shocked. Cassidon smiled and accepted it. On the other side, Damien was laying on the bed, and then he woke up. The men standing beside him said, Your Excellency, you woke up. Damien said, I am in a royal palace, right? The person replied, Yes, Your Excellency. His Majesty ordered us to heal your body, but it is difficult to treat your condition with our limited capacity, so I'm sorry. Damien was thinking that, damn Emperor, he never told me that he has people with healing abilities. Damien said, That's fine. Tell me what happened after I collapsed during the competition. The person replied, The winner has granted with the title of Marquis. Damien was shocked after hearing this. The person said, We are preparing an awards ceremony at the Imperial Palace. In an anger, Damien asked, What did you just say? At the Royal Palace, the Count and Orion was going to the Imperial Hall. The Count asked, What is happening? I'm very confused. Did you know that Cassidon was going to participate in the competition? Orion said, I did not know it either, Father. But I'm glad we met each other again in this way. I'm sure Cassidon will explain everything to us later. And then suddenly someone said Orion. After hearing her name, she looked in front of her. It was Damien. He was coming towards her. When he came close, she asked, How are you feeling now, Duke? I was worried when I saw you collapse like that. With a sweaty face, Damien said, I'm glad to hear that you were worried about me. Orion was thinking that his pain must be serious. His face is very pale and he seems to be having trouble breathing. It seems he was not able to control his emotions like before. The Count handshake with him and said, "It is a pleasure to meet you, Your Excellency. I am Fiancé." Damien said, "I also wanted to introduce myself to you." With a smile, Damien said, "As Orion's father, I think of you as my father, too." Orion was a bit angry, and she was thinking that why would my father be yours? With a sweaty face, the Count said, "That's how it is. You are as nice as I had heard. If you don't mind, may I ask if you and my daughter are close?" Damien said, "I think it's too quick to say that's the case. I would like to keep our relationship a secret, but next time I would love for the three of us to have a tea." Damien said, "Now, if you don't mind, I would like to speak with your daughter for a moment." Her father said, "Oh, of course." He looked at Orion and said, "I hope you have a good conversation with the Archduke, and the ceremony is going to start soon, so don't be late." And then the Count left. Orion said, "I don't see any Imperial Knights here." Damien said, "I told them all to leave. There are still people in the Imperial Palace who follow me around." Orion said, "Duke, this place is not suitable." Damien interrupted her and said, "Don't worry. I did not do this to receive treatment. If I did that in the palace, the young lady could get into trouble. I came here because I just missed you. I came looking for you." Orion said, "What an honor. I can't believe the Archduke would come looking for me as soon as he woke up." Damien said, "I heard that Cassidon will receive the title of Marquis, from slave to Marquis. His Majesty is truly a great man for allowing something like this." Orion was thinking that, so that's why he doesn't look good. Damien said, "Please congratulate Cassidon for me." He was touching her ribbon when she was talking. She said, "It will be difficult for me to talk to him. Now we are not family anymore, so we cannot spend time together like we used to." And then suddenly he grabbed her in his arms and said, "I cannot continue with this." She was pushing him and saying, "What the hell are you doing?" He came close to her ear and said, "Butterflies are attracted to the sweet scent of flowers. However, butterflies are not the only ones that fly near them. There might be some dirty flies buzzing around." He hugged her tightly and said, "Some toxics are enough to kill flowers. They always watch the butterflies from afar, full of hatred." And then suddenly Cassidon came from behind of Orion. With a dangerous and serious look, Cassidon was looking at him. Damien said, "With their gaze full of hatred to kill. Because they are poisonous insects. I'm sure of that last one." But then suddenly, Cassidon grabbed her hand and pulled her away from Damien. With a smile he asked, "Did he hurt you anywhere?" She replied, "I'm fine." Damien said, "As a slave, it seems like you still have not learned any manners." After hearing this, Orion shouted, "Archduke, what are you saying?" Damien said, "He is no longer a member of your family, so I don't think you should trust him, miss. Didn't he decide to leave your family because he knew it would only cause harm to you?" Cassidon grabbed the Orion's hat from the ground and said, "You seem very interested in other people's family affairs." He came close to him and said, "It seems as though His Excellency doesn't like me very much." In an anger, Damien said, "How dare you act superior to me just because you beat me in one competition?" Cassidon said, "Perhaps you should search for Kindle right now. He is not far from you. You can go fetch him on your own." Damien said, "Incredible. Does Orion know what you did?" He said, "This gladiator slave forgot all the grace that was granted to him by you, and entered the competition because he wanted to have more status. To achieve this, he kidnapped my butler and held him hostage in order to force me to compete against him." With a sweaty face, Orion was looking at Cassidon and thinking that, did he kidnap his butler? Is that how he got Damien to entering in the competition? Damien said, "Unfortunately, the lady must not have known any of this. How dare he deceive not only me, but also the benefactors who helped him?" He moved his hand forward and said, "I feel sorry that you have gotten involved with such a dangerous man, so I will help you to escape from the clutches of this man." He said, "There are many things that I would like to tell you, my lady, about this man. He seems to have a twisted possessive desire for his sister. It's unnatural. No one I know has ever felt a desire like this. What you took home from that gladiator ring was not a human, but a beast. Orion was continuously looking at Cassidon, and he was looking downwards. She was thinking that Cassidon is not like that. And then suddenly she grabbed Cassidon's hand and said, "Duke, you must be mistaken. He is not a beast." In a confused state, Damien said, "My lady, what are you saying?" She asked, "Is there anything else you want to tell me? If not, then I think we should leave now since we don't have much time." When she was close to him, she said, "Archduke, may I remind you that we are in the Imperial Palace? I will meet with your Excellency in a couple of days when you are calmer. You understand what I mean, right? We can discuss this later." Damien was about to say something, but then he stopped and said, "I understood." Orion said, "I believe the ceremony is about to begin." At the Imperial Hall, the Emperor was sitting on his throne and all of the guests were gathered together for the ceremony. Cassidon was sitting on his knees to receive the title. The Emperor took out the medal and said, "As a reward for your great achievement during the tournament and your grand spirit, I, the Emperor, honor you with the title of Marquis. You will receive a mansion and land accordingly. I bestowed to you the dais castle, and your symbol is a falcon with wings that will allow you to fly high." Cassidon accepted it and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." At the Sarika's palace, all three of them were sitting together for dinner. The Count said, "Explain everything to us from start to finish. We are filled with both curiosity and confusion. You suddenly decided to participate in this competition. Do you realize how worried Orion was this entire time?" "In a worried state," he said, "and she was so distraught last night that she could not even sleep. Even her lips were puffy this morning." However, after hearing this, Orion spit out the drink because she remembered the previous night, when both of them were kissing each other very intensely and for a long time. With a totally red face, Orion said, "Father, Cassidon is now a marquis." Her father slammed his hand on the table and said, "That doesn't matter at all right now. He made us believe that he was going to come back after leaving us so upset. Entering a competition like that was dangerous. You put your life at risk. In addition to that, you even publicly revealed that you were a slave. That could have been considered treasonous." He asked, "And why did you color your hair black?" Cassidon replied, "I did that because I thought too many people would recognize me. I did not want to bother either of you until I had won." He said, "Count, you told me to come back when I finished what I had to do, but I thought that if I did not clarify my status, you might be in danger. How could I dare return knowing that?" He was holding Orion's hand and said, "I wanted to be able to come back proud and with my head held high. His Majesty promised that he would allow me to go to war on behalf of the Sarika family." Both of them were listening to him very seriously. He said, "I wanted to return the favor to you like this, Count. I want to do whatever it takes to repay you for your kindness. I'm sorry for any inconvenience that you may have suffered." While looking at him, Orion was thinking that, "I did not know about this since the Emperor did not announce it. But go to war on behalf of my father." Cassidon looked at his eyes and said, "Even though I received the title of Marquis, you two will always be my greatest benefactors. I hope you can feel more comfortable with this change in our relationship." With a sweaty face, the Count was looking at him, and after a while he said, "Cassidon, it seems you think that we will just sit back while you do something like that." He said, "The title of Marquis is not something that can be easily received. His Majesty will surely try to test you, to determine whether you will be on the side of your former family or his." After hearing this, Cassidon didn't say anything. The Count said, "So Cassidon, if tomorrow you must move to the Marquisate, then we will have to treat you as a Marquis, not as part of our family." Cassidon said, "Yes, Count." And then the Count grabbed his cup of tea and said, "But for now, I want us to continue feeling comfortable being together as a family. After seeing his smile, Cassidy was surprised. The Count said, I know you care a lot about us, but this would not solve our political problems. You must trust us as you go along your own path. Orion was looking at him with a smile, and the Count said, okay, then let's eat. I have prepared all your favorite food. After a while, Orion was standing in her room. She was thinking that my father is right. It would be better if we treat Cassidy like a marquis in public. And then suddenly someone knocked on the door. Orion looked towards the door and the person asked, would you mind if I come into your room for a bit? With a smile, Orion said, Cassidy, it's a bit late this evening. Cassidy said, alright then, don't open the door. However, Orion was about to open the door, but then she stopped. He said, I just came to say, before we met, my mother had left me a message. She wrote to survive at all costs, forget everything and be happy. I thought, how could I be happy when I had lost everything? I could not keep the promise I made to her, at least not until I met you. Both of them were touching the door, and Orion was leaning towards the door. Cassidy said, now I just want to be by your side forever. And when all of this ends, I promise I will marry you. After hearing this, she did not have anything to say. She was thinking that I can't be immature. I still clinch onto my revenge. I thought that this was the way I should do things, that the prayer I made to get revenge and had reached the heavens because, in the past life, he joined the Royal Knights. I saw how he rose through the ranks in his journey as knight. He even became the Crown Prince's closest aide. And in this life he defeated Damien in their first fight despite the danger involved. I took everything from you. I made you my brother for my own safety despite knowing what the future would be. Will you still love me after you know all that? And then she sat down on the floor and thinking that, before I even realized it, he's certain that he will be happy by my side. While crying, she was thinking that, all I've been thinking about is getting my revenge for the past. In the beginning I have been the liar, not Cassidy. Cassidy said, don't worry. I did not come here to ask for your answer. I just simply wanted to tell you. Orion was thinking that what should I do? She was looking at the moon and thinking that, God, for what reason did you make me come back? On the next day at the Imperial Palace, the butler came with a letter. He said, Your Majesty, it is a letter received from the north. The Emperor took it and started to read it. He said, Pirates, Cassidy has not even visited his new territory yet. I did not expect this opportunity to appear so soon. It would be a waste to miss this chance. With a smile, he said, Summon Marquis Cassidy here immediately. That's all for today's video. If you want to know what happened next, then like and subscribe. Alchemy Animation YouTube channel.